Hey guys, Kitty Sapphire here, and welcome to Kitty Reacts. How's everybody doing? This time we're not really reacting to anything. If anything, we're going a little bit down memory lane. If you guys haven't heard much on the internet, this video is gonna be different in this particular case, because the great, legendary Akira Toriyama unfortunately was announced, I believe, yesterday. Akira Toriyama unfortunately passed away. And when I got this news, a lot of feelings and emotions built up in me, and I had to give myself a chance to kind of reflect on these things. Of course, I couldn't really believe the news. Now, this is the same type of reaction I had when I learned about other great creators that I grew up with passing. I would have to say my reaction is similar to, Michael Jackson. There was regarding a similar reaction to Stan Lee. This really hit me hard. There is a part of me that I feel like my childhood has been severed a bit regarding this bit of news, but I don't want to settle the whole entire video on how I feel currently speaking. I'm going to talk about sort of going down memory lane and what the series Dragon Ball meant to me as a kid and how it meant to me as an adult, or adulting specifically. I still don't feel any different from what I did when I was younger in age, but the first memory I had of Dragon Ball Z was probably, like many of you, was watching Toonami back in the early mid-90s, and how this show, now may I remind you, I didn't watch Dragon Ball first. Dragon Ball Z was the first series that I came across. So I didn't know about Dragon Ball until like later on, still in grade school, when I saw those. And that was like when I used to hang out with an old friend of mine who had like always the latest things. That, like, some people have that friend that like had all the latest stuff, and you were like, you had some things, but you didn't have the latest stuff all the time. With Dragon Ball Z, I came in contact with that first in Toonami. Back then, it wasn't Tom who hosted the show. It was Moltar from Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Some of you might remember this, some of you might not. I ran into this show when I was little. I was enamored. I watched it with my cousins at the time. They used to come over every single holiday, so like spring vacation, summer vacation, the winter holidays, etc., etc. We would watch this show, and I was like floored. Goku was so funny. He was so bright and bubbly, and I loved it. And it was a nice, at the time, it was a nice compliment to the other anime that I was completely, and still to this very day, still pretty much obsessed with, Sailor Moon. Because, back then it was like Sailor Moon was for the girls and Dragon Ball Z were for the guys, but I loved both. So I was obsessed when I first saw it. I wore a lot of t-shirts. If there were posters everywhere, if there was like a poster or a reference to Goku, I tried to pick it out when I was little. I used to play like out in the front yard, like, back in the day when we used to go outside, you would play pretend and play Power Rangers out in the front yard. And you had the little toys. No. Whenever there was a fight, whenever there was like people brawling, not necessarily brawling because they had an attitude, but also just for fun, you cannot tell me that nobody in the schoolyard was doing this at like, in the middle of the schoolyard, in the middle of a brawl. You had a lot of that. People would make drawings out of them, and it actually inspired me to do art the way I currently do now. But of course, it wasn't all sunshines and rainbows when I was encountering this particular series. I got picked on a lot regarding my interests because back then it was considered a boys only show. And of course, shonen, it's in the title. It's mainly geared at guys. But I didn't care because that was a way for me to bond with my father and my cousins, especially the fact that my father introduced me to Marvel half the time when I was little as well. So I didn't really get the idea of, well, this is for one particular group and another series is for another particular group. So I didn't get any of that. So I got picked on a lot for it. And especially in grade school, including, I would dare to say, the teachers, well, the teacher who was a bully. This show basically gave me hope, along with Sailor Moon, even though Sailor Moon was the huge flagship of getting me to feel comfortable with myself and enjoying just drawing and stuff like that. It got really prominent, especially during middle school from what I remember. It was a saving grace for me, especially when I didn't have a lot of friends at the time. When I didn't have a lot of friends during that time frame. There was only a few creators at that time that I really looked up to. One was my father. The one was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I consider those two like a package deal. So I will consider them like of the top 5 that I used to look up to, or I still looked up to until current day. Yeah, those would be a package deal. And then Akira Toriyama being another one. I will talk about later the other 2 if you guys are still interested in having this conversation with me as a junior or a baby otaku at the time. Akira Toriyama was one of the bigger ones that I really looked up to, and in a way, by creating this show, he saved my life. When you don't have any friends and you feel isolated and feel kind of weird, and you have all these thoughts and you have everything that basically comes at you and you feel so alone in your experiences, you don't get that same support from everybody else. So you go through a lot, and I have to say at a very young age I was, dare I say it, very sensitive to the point where I was questioning my own existence. And it got so bad to the point where I was questioning my own existence. And if it wasn't for my father, if it wasn't for the influences that I had as a creative individual coming up into geekdom, coming of age sort of type of thing, during that time frame where everything was not so, the internet was just coming up, so it wasn't the huge influence that we have today. We didn't have a chance to connect with other nerds or other people that are anime fans at that time. It was still the era of going to Chinatown and going to these various smaller spots where you can get your anime hookup from. It was a little bit different during that time frame. Yeah, Akira Toriyama making this little world for the public saved my life in that regard. And I'm forever grateful for that. That, hey, he made a space for a weird, geeky person like myself to be okay, or give me a place to escape to when the real world, for me specifically at that time, was not safe. It wasn't safe in a mental or emotional capacity, and it wasn't friendly to the creatives. And to a certain degree, it's gotten better now that you have these big giant conventions and you have the internet. As much as people like to slam the internet, but you have people who have similar interests as you, and you can lean on them from time to time. I'm glad that I was able to make it to the point where I could experience those things. And Akira Toriyama's world helped me with that. Also, Akira Toriyama got me to have my very first friend. I had friends before, kindergarten friends and one grade school friend, but this particular friend that I made, the one that is considered to be the real friend at the time was because it came from a place where we had mutual feelings about anime, Toonami, and dare I say, Dragon Ball Z. And during that time, I was able to blossom as far as my artwork is concerned. With this person, I had formulated a bond with this person. We played with paper dolls of Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon characters when I was little. So we didn't have any figures and stuff like that. He had the figures, I didn't. But I made do with what capabilities I had, which was the paper dolls. And we would play, and yes, I got distracted during during school hours, but I didn't care. We used to play Dragon Ball Z outside, and I got in trouble for it. The teachers, but with people of my peers, I got bullied for that too. That this friend of mine would spend all their time playing with me, playing Dragon Ball Z in the schoolyard versus him playing sports or anything like that. The same thing with the girls. And it got me into martial arts later on in life. Well, not later on in life, but I started my journey in martial arts. As I got older and my friendship got stronger with this person, and this went into middle school, I got picked on for the same things. Then it got a little bit more egregious regarding to appearance and sense of self and identity. And Dragon Ball Z was one of those staple anime that made it okay to be who I was. And my cousins and my father just reinforced that by letting me be the tomboy that I am at that time frame. And it got me also into the art that you see me put up with the artistry, or sort of reborn as the creator that you see before you. And basically increased my love for the anime arts. It drove me to, wanting to visit Japan, especially after I found out that it was not an American show. Well, actually, very early on, I figured out it was a Japanese show, especially the fact of the promo from World's Strongest. That promo is like one of my personal favorite of the Dragon Ball Z movies, the 3 old school movies that I was raised up on. The World's Strongest promo is like one of my personal favorites, and that's where I found out that it was a Japanese-based show. My father was also very involved. He took me to Chinatown. He got me a huge poster, which I still have to this very day. I'm not gonna dig around for it because it's like it's somewhere in this in the pile of all my geek stuff. Ball Z was very, very influential in my life. Heck, my cousins that used to stay over, they would draw in both the Marvel format and the Dragon Ball Z Akira Toriyama art style. And I used to be enthralled with their artwork, and I'm like, my God, I really, really wish I could draw like that. And here I am, now drawing. Now I'm a professional illustrator and concept artist. I draw my own, and I'm making my own stuff. I'm still working on my manga, which takes a bit of a fortnight, but still fighting through it, still holding out those dreams. And I have this creator, this wonderful mangaka, this person's wonderful mind and his journey as a mangaka and his world of Dragon Ball to thank for that. One of the people that I have to thank for that. There is, all I can say is, Akira Toriyama, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I'm trying not to cry here. Oh my God, because when I got the news, I was crying a lot the previous night. I really didn't get much sleep, and I ended up sketching pretty much majority of the night because of the fact of how I felt, of the various mixed emotions that I was dealing with at the time. So I'm trying not to cry now. Thank you, Akira Toriyama. Thank you for everything that you gave. I understand from the outside. I understand only a micro of what you went through as a mangaka. I know it's not an easy job. It's not creators deal with currently. But all the things that you had to sacrifice in order to get to your point, and also all the people that you brought together. Like, Goku is one of, if not, yeah, one of the most iconic characters in fictional history. All you have to do is just take a glance of the silhouette and you know exactly who that is. Their murals and figures upon figures, people drawing, a lot of them had Dragon Ball Z as their first introduction to anime. I had, Dragon Ball Z was one of my first anime that I latched onto as a kid as well. A lot of cases, people like myself have probably similar stories of going through tough times and Goku helping them through those tough times. People that were closeted otakus or anime fans, they learned to be okay with this anime as it got bigger over the years. It's so much that this show has done. And even to this very day, it's never been, it came up and then it just basically disappeared in the zeitgeist. No, it remained from all those years. People still quote it. You have Team 4-Star. Team 4-Star could not be here without their start of Dragon Ball Z Abridged and Dragon Ball Kai Abridged. That was also another thing that, hey, I latched on to Team 4-Star along with everybody else. It's in their name. The fact that, hey, they had JoJo Abridged, they had Hellsing Abridged. I can't believe I don't know why I had to do that, because of the fact that Hellsing is like one of my personal favorite animes of all time, but we'll talk about that a little later. Yeah, the shirt kind of gives it away, I know, right? It's just that Team 4-Star was huge in my college years, so there's your implement of Dragon Ball. I remember, oh my goodness, I just remembered that I remember my father back in the day. There was a time when PlayStation 1 first came out, and there was a time where you can basically mod your PlayStation 1. And what they would do is you would go to Chinatown and get a burner chip for your PlayStation. And of course it was basically on the down low, you're not supposed to do that, but the burner chip was able to help translate video games that are from Japan. And there were at the time 3 Dragon Ball Z video games that were really popular, but it was the underground scene. If you knew the right people, you could get that chip. Luckily, one Christmas I got that chip, and came the 3 Dragon Ball video games that I got, which I believe was Dragon Ball Bout, Dragon Ball GT game, and I can't remember, but it was your first time doing like the 3D motion, so it wasn't like a 2D fight like Dragon Ball Bout was, Dragon Ball GT was, because GT was more like, the best way I could describe it is like Tekken, because it's a 3D maneuver, it's not a 2D fighter like Bout was. The game that I'm referring to, you guys might know, so if you guys know what game that I'm talking about, please put it in the comments and kind of jog my memory a little bit. I'm sorry, there was just so many games, and then you had Dragon Ball Budokai 1 and 2 and 3, and then you had Kakarot game, Dragon Ball Tenkaichi. Oh my goodness, all these other things that basically was an imprint on my high school, my middle school years, my high school years, my college years. Oh my goodness, all of it is just... This franchise, this series, this character, this creator was a huge influence in my life, along with several other creators that just evolved my taste and my love for anime. My love for anime, my love for science fiction, my love for fantasy, my love for video games. Akira Toriyama was part of that. Now, I didn't grow up with, I know some of you might have grown up with Dragon Quest, and others might have grew up with Chrono Trigger. Actually, there was a time where I thought that, hey, Chrono, now at the time I didn't know the difference between Chrono Trigger and Dragon Ball Z. All I recognized was the art style. So I was under the impression that in Chrono Trigger with Chrono, I was looking at Gohan, or a distant relative of Gohan when I was little. When it wasn't GameStop, it was EB Games. electronic boutique games. Oh my god, I am revealing so much of myself right now because as far as like age is concerned, it's kind of ridiculous. I am so sorry. It's just that Dragon Ball Z continues, like, now that I'm traveling down memory lane, it contributed a lot of my growth. It really did. And then also to see all the different cosplays. Heck, there was one Halloween that I was basically Android 18. I had black vest, white top, and jean look. I think it was that one. And then I did a Videl costume for another Halloween. Even though I was trying to gravitate to a lot of the female characters, but 18 was the only one that I really, really, really liked because she had like a sense of style, and well, she was just a badass all around. It's just that I was trying to basically relate to a lot of the female characters, and at the time there wasn't a lot. I was trying to find myself, and I can't believe that I can't believe I remember that Videl was one of the costumes that I put on, and I don't really like Videl that much. I have my personal reasons. I can go into a whole entire rant about that, but I'm not going to, because it will take too much time, and I think for some reason, we got a lot of critiques and complaints online. I don't need to add more to the pile. It's just that Dragon Ball Z was a huge influence. Oh, and I didn't even get to the Dragon Ball part. How me and my friend, we were traveling to a convention. Which, by the way, this is the friend that also introduced me to conventions in the first place. Oh my goodness. So when we were traveling, and I don't remember where we were traveling to, but they had the TV in the car. So we would watch Dragon Ball. And this, I looked at this as a prequel to Dragon Ball Z because I saw Dragon Ball Z first on Toonami. So I was like, oh, this is a prequel, and we get to see how Goku looks when he was a kid. This was pretty awesome. And I used to really like the intro. Dragon Ball, you gotta find those Dragon Ball. I used to love that, and I used to bob to that. Actually, just for laughs, I think I'm gonna go on YouTube and just like track that song down, along with I think I have quite a few of the other intros. I know I have Rock the Dragon on my MP3 player, and to this day I still play it. Same way with Chala or We Are Angels, which is the outro to Dragon Ball, or music where they rap in Spanish and Espanol, to the music in between each episode in the Japanese version, which I used to like that, which in turn now jogs my memory that, hey, I used to watch Dragon Ball Z both in English and in Spanish, in El Español. I used to watch both of them. My father couldn't understand why I would watch those when it's an episode that I've seen before, and then how do I understand it? I was just a little kid, and I was just curious what changed. And I believe it was Telemundo. I used to watch Spanish Dragon Ball Z, which is hilarious. I was just obsessed, so I didn't care what language it came in. I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to see the fight, but just in a different language. Still have plenty of music from the series. Heck, I have some of the Americanized background music. The Trunks series, the Trunks saga, where Trunks basically make a first appearance. Well, specifically Future Trunks made an appearance into the present day and try to warn the Z fighters, hey, there's a bunch of androids that are coming in and basically going to destroy the planet. There's like so many memories that are basically coming out of the woodwork the more I dive into this. From music to video games to anime to, oh my goodness, I remember, oh god, this is another one. I remember reading through the manga of Dragon Ball. How I was introduced to Launch, how I kind of got ahead of the series because of the fact that I read the manga first. Especially with the tournament arc, how I felt where Krillin basically nearly got killed the first time, and I was like, oh my god, my heart sank, and I was crying profusely because I was like, oh my god, Goku's best friend has basically kicked the bucket. This is horrible. Or the fight where he realized that he has no nose. I thought that was hilarious back then. It was great. And it's just like, oh my goodness, it was great. It was great back then regarding... And the first time I came in contact with subs, actually was with Dragon Ball Z. This was like later on, and this was dealing with VHS tapes. My cousins came over for one summer, and they brought over a videotape of Dragon Ball Z of the later episodes of the Buu saga. And oh my goodness, it was just like crazy with that one. And that's how I also picked up on, hey, when they started doing the English dub for it, and it took like years to get the English dub out back in those times. And here you can have it simultaneously, like with Favorite and in Japan, you can have like, I believe, a day or two where it's dubbed now. You can have it dubbed simultaneously with the episode airing in Japan. Now you can do that. Back in those days, it took years to get the subs translated and basically dubbed. And it's like, wow. It's just wow. And it's just, so it's like, it's crazy how the evolution of anime has grown from those times as well. And to have Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball to reflect on that. And I remember GT too. GT was in my college years, and how, you know, I was really excited, but I was like slightly disappointed, but I was really excited for Dragon Ball GT's Super Saiyan form. I kid you not, like I said, GT, I personally, there were a lot of spots that I didn't like, but there were spots in the series that were actually pretty good. I definitely firmly believe that. If, you know, it's my personal opinion, you don't have to agree, but in my view, I have to say Super Saiyan 4 was a very unique design, and I love those. I love unique designs. The concepts was never seen before. Dang, I can't pronunciate nor proper English. What's going on here? GT was another one that I really enjoyed, but at the same time had my own particular gripes. Not as much as I have with Super. I have nothing against Super fans. Dragon Ball, Super, you guys like what you like. For me, I felt Dragon Ball Super was very lackluster at the time. Or, well, not at the time. I was hyped in the very beginning, especially the fact that now Goku became a god. And I was like, oh wow, he's a god? I wanted to see the movie. I wanted to see that. I was invested in Dragon Ball F, which I went to the movie theater for. I remember still like in my like tail end of my my college career, or my college life, going to see Frieza F, or Resurrection F. And I thought that was a wonderful revival of my love for Dragon Ball. We went to the movie theaters, and I went to this movie theater that I'd never been to before called the Alamo. And mind you, I love that place. And because of the fact that they dedicate a lot of their fan base, or a lot of the movies that they show, is very anime, niche, geek-oriented stuff. So it's like, if you want to like look at the classics of like the 1950s shows, the old black and white, or the old anime, or you want a Ghibli night or a Demon Slayer night, well, you go to the Alamo. And just, I enjoyed Resurrection F, and it was great. it just rekindled my love for the series. And I just, yeah, I just, this man just gave a lot. Just gave a lot, and still instills in me and rekindles my love for the arts, that I want to still strive to make this manga a reality. I really want to shoot for that, and I still want to shoot for that, and something that I will never forget. So again, from the bottom of my heart, Akira Toriyama, we loved you, and you basically touched a lot. You basically set the world on fire with your manga. You set the world on fire with your manga. Goku is, again, Goku and just the Z Fighters in general are just a iconic set of characters. And a lot of people are constantly inspired by them. And will not forget what you have done. Will never forget. Even to this very day with Stan Lee, a lot of his stuff, Spider-Man, all of that, X-Men, Black Panther, Iron Man, Thor, the list goes on, and you're one of those, Akira. So I'm very grateful for that, to be a part of that fan base, being a part of the people that will remember you long before. And it's very heartbreaking to know that you will not be on this planet anymore. But I bet you are hanging out with King Kai and the other Kais up there, and just enjoying your life that you lived in this plane, just in the other plane. Hopefully, we won't forget that. We won't forget all the things that you implemented throughout your time here. Heck, the shonen genre, I don't think it would explode the way it has thanks to Dragon Ball Z and just the Dragon Ball series as in general. Shonen has become a household word because of Dragon Ball Z. So yeah. So yeah, those are the many stories that I have for you, and probably I'm gonna, like, throughout the day reflect on that and think about some other stories that I didn't get a chance to share because it didn't come up on my mind. I purposely made this video non-scripted because the emotions and memories are not scripted. It's more of, I wanted to share this portion of myself because I feel like a lot of people can relate to their favorite mangaka, their favorite artist, their favorite person that they look up to. I purposely made it in this particular fashion. And I wonder actually, what particular, I want you to share at the bottom of the comments or in the comment section, and let me know what are some of the wonderful, we're going to make this a group participation project. At the bottom of in the comment section, I want you to basically tell me a story. Tell me a clip of the time that you enjoyed Dragon Ball Z, or was exposed to anime for the first time, or how did Dragon Ball affect your life in some shape or form, whether it's small, whether it's big, whether it's astronomical, like it influenced your life from the day that you started watching anime to present day. I want to hear your stories of how much this guy really influenced you guys. I really do. And I want to open the channels to have this conversation. A wholesome conversation about their love for anime because of this individual. So I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I hope you guys enjoyed this more personable video. I want to start doing more of these and sharing little bits of things here and there about myself and my love for anime and what have you. This channel is all about that. This channel is all about this. So I want to hear. I want to hear it, and I want to share some more tidbits maybe later on down the road. Maybe. Hopefully more in a happier setting instead of a more somber one. But it's, this is a part of our lives. And if you want to see more content, please let me know. Put it in the comment section. If you want to support, check out my other art sites. I have it linked. My LinkedIn tree will be in the description. And I will hope to see you guys in the next video. So... I love you guys so very, very much. I really mean that. And this channel could not survive without you guys. And just the connections and bonds that I love having with my friends on here, my family on here, my wonderful, wonderful supporters. Again, you guys mean the world to me. And I hope to hear from you guys very, very soon. Okay? I love you. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Ji-chan. おっす。うん、そうだ。行こうか、じいちゃん。